Hi, I'm Robbin Miller, host of Miller Chat. Today I will be interviewing authors in Shrewsbury on the books they have written, and they will be reading you some excerpts. My first guest is David Lee, and I wanted to thank you very much for coming on.
Oh, thanks.
You are a children's book author?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And what age group do you write for?
I write for generally the elementary school to middle school audience. And as I grow older, I might gear more of my books towards a young adult to an adult audience. Basically, what age I am is what I'm writing for.
And the books you've written about, I know my son has read two of them. They're about dinosaurs, dragons, right?
Lots of science fiction-y.
Science fiction.
A little bit of fantasy, action, adventure, humor, all of it.
Well, I have to say, my husband, when he was reading it, he has to say you have a very creative imagination.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, very creative. And so what was the purpose of writing, you just like writing about fantasy and imagination?
I mean, I have a imagination, certainly, I watch a lot of science fiction movies, read a lot of fantasy and science fiction books, and writing is sort of an outlet. Mm-hmm. And also, I kind of want to keep writing because I want to be an inspiration for other people like me who have ideas. Mm-hmm. I want to show them that they can do it through my own certain efforts towards my ambition of writing. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the reason why I'm writing books the way I am.
And you're going to college in a couple of years, right?
Yes, I am.
You want to be a writer?
I'm thinking about it. I could be a scientist too.
And you can still write books?
Yep, I can still write books about science fiction.
Just different type of giants, monsters, right?
Well, certainly.
Different type of action?
Well, certainly I'm going to put a lot more scientific explanation behind it.
Okay. Well, can you just read a brief excerpt for the audience?
All right, so this is Danny and the Trip to Outer Space. I wrote it when I was 8. It's the second book in my series. Ah, what a beautiful England countryside morning, Danny thought as he crawled out of his bed while he was still recovering from his adventure with the portal. Suddenly, surprise! Shouted Danny's siblings, his father and his mother. Danny, who was scared, leaped out of bed and onto the floor. Danny looked around. He realized it was his birthday. Everybody showed him their gifts. His mother brought Danny a box of oil canvas paints. His dad brought him a box of acrylic paints. And his older sister brought him the canvas. Danny's brother, John, brought him 3 gifts, a playground, wood, and paintbrushes. His younger sister, Mary, brought him a sculpture of her top heel shoes to finish Danny's shoe collection. And finally, his younger brother, Bill, brought him a wrapped present and a red toolbox. Danny opened up every present and opened the wrapped present last. When he tore off the gift wrap and the ribbon, in his hands sat an RC plane. It was different than all of those other RC planes. It was green with black cannons. Then suddenly, everybody dashed off to the dining room. There were cake, candy, chips and dip, soda, and ice cream. Danny started to play with the RC plane, and he accidentally spilled some soda on the aircraft. The aircraft started to grow big, and bigger, and bigger, and bigger still. The aircraft was growing before their very eyes. A yellow haze glowed around the aircraft. Bang! The machine sprang to life. Danny and his siblings scrambled for shelter. The RC plane gave a mighty growl and zoomed forward. Clangs and clatters of pots and pans roared through inside the kitchen. Danny, with his family close behind, watched as the giant RC aircraft went crashing and thrashing and crushing and banging all over the house. At last, Danny and his siblings managed to hang on to the plane for dear life as it zoomed around. Danny and his siblings hung onto the aircraft as they watched tables being thrown in the air, shelves collapsing to the floor, and clocks falling from the walls and breaking into a million pieces.
45 seconds.
Danny's parents were running after the aircraft to hang on to the human chain Danny and his siblings has made. Wham! The aircraft lunged for a shelf and destroyed a TV with a humongous crack. When Danny tried to get inside the aircraft, his birthday cake was knocked in the air by the aircraft's wing and smashed into his face. And in 1 in a billion chance, 2 lollipops, a cherry, and a banana went splat into squashed kick on Danny's face and formed a funny smiley face on him. Danny's father closed the door of the aircraft. He saw Danny's face and screamed, "Ah!" Danny shouted back, "What?" He cleaned up the mashed cake on his face and found that the plane was zooming towards a wall. Kablooey!
All right. Well, thank you very much, David Lee, for coming on. And these are your books, right?
Yep, these are my books.
4, what do you have?
5 of them.
5 of them. You have any one coming out next year?
I may have. I'm still writing on it. It's a new concept, different from the series. Again, it's kind of more geared towards a teenage audience, I'm imagining.
Yeah.
But definitely science fiction, and it'll have my trademarks of writing.
And they can get on Amazon.com?
They're going to be available.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Hi, I'm Robbin Miller, and I'm now interviewing Laura Lee to talk about her book, The Risen.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming on to share a little bit about yourself and your book. So, what grade are you in?
I just finished 7th grade.
And going into the 8th grade. Congratulations. So, you've written 2 books. What made you want to write?
My brother is a huge inspiration in my writing career, basically. And I've been inspired by many other authors in the science fiction industry, the fantasy industry, and tons of other genres. And I thought maybe I should write something too. And my book is geared towards like the idea that females can do a lot of things. So my characters are very brave, they're very heroic, and they're saving the day a lot.
All right. So you wrote The Risen and Two Worlds.
Yes.
Okay.
The Risen is my 2nd book in my Two Worlds trilogy.
Good for you. Well, the time we have, did you want to read a short clip?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So The Risen is, like I said, it's my 2nd book in the Two Worlds trilogy, and I'll be reading the prologue. Minerva walked down the dark moonlit path, her sneakers padding over the hard earth. Despite the winter chill, she was dressed in a t-shirt and jeans. The cold didn't bother her. It never did. She traveled down the frozen path to a giant hill. A small opening led to another tunnel submerged in freezing air. Minerva entered and continued on her way, going further toward the center of the hill until the darkness around her finally opened into a chamber. Minerva made a fist and flung it out in front of her, opening her hand as she did so. A small light appeared in the center of her palm, growing until it was a churning small sphere with swirling white tendrils. The vortex lit up the room to reveal 2 young women. As she approached them, she realized their eyes were closed and their arms were by their side, palms facing outward. Snaky swirls of white floated in the air, twirling out from their fingertips. They seemed to be frozen in place. Minerva stepped forward and raised both hands. She took several deep breaths and then spoke. "Juliana, Pandora, sisters, I wake you." The milky tendrils streamed from her fingers and spread out over the 2 women. Minerva was enveloped in a swirling bright cocoon that expanded until it whirled around the chamber, causing the temperature to drop. Minerva felt a bead of sweat trickle down the side of her face. With a yell, she shrank the magical storm until it only surrounded the 2 women. The energy swirled faster, and the women took a sharp breath and opened their eyes. In a panic, Minerva tried to turn off the steady stream of magic that flowed from her fingertips without success. The women raised their arms and enveloped themselves in their own swirls of magic, blasting it outward. The twisting storm imploded into a tiny white dot that disappeared. A massive shockwave traveled out, blasting Minerva off her feet. She landed on her back. Minerva got to her feet unsteadily and took a tentative step towards the woman. "Sisters," she began. The woman on the left held up her hand and glowed faintly. Suddenly, Minerva's feet were stuck to the ground. She struggled to walk while the woman studied her. An intricate silver band was nestled in her hair. "Who are you?" she asked. "You have awakened us from our sleep. I see potential in you, but I do not know if you are a friend or an enemy." Minerva was relieved to find that she could still talk. "Juliana," she said, "I am Minerva, born with ice magic. I come to free you from your long sleep and fight by your sides as we battle the fiery ones." The other woman, Pandora, scowled. "Why should we trust you? A sorceress has betrayed her sister often enough before." Minerva had been expecting one of them to say those words. "I would never do that. I am young and have been living in the shadows for years, gaining power. I am ready to fight. If we do accept you, you will face many risks. You cannot back down from any battle that threatens us. The same is for us. Do you understand? Juliana asked. Minerva locked eyes with her. I understand, sister. Juliana held out her hand, and a bolt of bright white energy shot out from her palm. Minerva extended her hand, and the bolt connected, forming a bridge between them. It was Pandora's turn. If you double-cross us even for a second, severe punishment is inevitable. We will hunt you down if you try to run. Do you understand? Minerva switched her gaze to Pandora. I understand, sister. Pandora released her own bolt of energy and connected it to Minerva's other outstretched palm. Juliana and Pandora spoke as one. So be it. We accept you as our sister. At the word sister, both women closed their fists and the magic transferred to Minerva, becoming two glowing white balls that sizzled with icy power. Minerva brought her hands together and sensed it coursing through her bloodstream. She felt stronger than ever before. She felt invincible. Juliana smiled. Welcome, Minerva. Sister, let's get to work.
Wow, that was very nice.
Thank you.
Well, when you plan to go to college, you're going to be a writer?
Maybe. I'm definitely considering it, though I might also pursue a job in astronomy or the medical field.
Good for you. Well, thank you, Laura Lee, for coming
Thank you.
on. It was nice to meet you.
Yep, you too.
Hi, welcome back. I am now with Laura E. Nelson. Thank you for coming on.
No problem. Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and the book that you brought here today.
I've been writing since I was pretty much in elementary school for a long time. My mom has a little pony book that I drew and illustrated, and she still has that. I've always wanted to be a writer. I just thought it was so fun, just creating a world just from your own mind, and I wanted to try, so.
And so you're a science kind of writer. Are you science? What's your genre?
Dark fantasy mostly, but I'm experimenting with science fiction as well.
Oh, okay. Did you want to read something from your book?
Sure.
Okay.
This is just the kind of prologue-ish. It's
Okay.
very short.
Okay.
It's a poem called A Heart's Tears. And the lost hero fled the land and walked the night alone. The lonely heart takes the hand and makes sorrows its own. But as the sun rises, casting its dawning fire upon the ashes of a fallen empire, and there you realize you cannot see those who love you and those you'll be.
So, are you still in school?
I got out of school,
Uh-huh.
but I'm going into sophomore year next year.
Oh, good for you. So this is something you may pursue,
Yes, definitely.
being a writer? And do you have any other books coming out besides what you have here?
I'm currently working on the sequel to this one and a second science fiction novel, so we'll
Well-
see how that goes.
Well, that's nice. The purpose of the show was to promote summer reading. And do you have any words of wisdom for people to go out there and read?
If you really want to do something, you'll need to read. Just that's all I've got to say.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Laura Nelson, for coming on.
Thank you.
Hi, welcome back. I'm now interviewing Irene Drabkin. And you wrote a book, what was it called?
The Power of the Educated Patient. The Power of the Educated Patient. Proven strategies for reclaiming your health and well-being that you won't find in a conventional medical office.
What made you want to write that book?
Well, I'm a holistic health practitioner, and a few years ago, I went to the health conference, and I met this woman, and I asked her why did she become a holistic health practitioner, and she started to tell me the story of her father, how he became disabled from taking certain statin drugs, and then how he became really disabled, he couldn't walk, and she found the solution, she found how to help him and how to take him off disability. And while she was telling me the story, I realized that my father had the same symptoms her father had.
Oh, really?
And then I thought, well, he's taking the same drug. So I made the connection. So I came home. Obviously, I did not take my father. I wasn't qualified enough to take my father off the drug.
Right.
But I did add the necessary supplements and necessary things to help him to become disabled.
Oh.
So that's how her story about saving her father helped me save my father. And that time I thought, what if more people heard about this story?
Right.
And they could put those together, the symptoms, and the healing strategies, and they would use them for themselves and their loved ones. And that was the beginning. And then I had my own story of healing, because this is the collection of 20 stories, 21 stories actually, of people who heal themselves. They had different illnesses from lupus or celiac disease to stage 4 metastatic cancer. And people heal themselves. Some of them were sent home to die, and they healed themselves through both conventional and unconventional methods. So the story, and most of those people became healers. They're helping other people, and they shared their stories. And I have all their contacts in this book. So that's how it came about, and the book was born. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's great. Well, in the time we have, did you want to just read a small excerpt? Or
Right.
piece?
Okay. So yeah. We all become patients at some point in our lives. We may be sick and need get help getting better. We might go for a well appointment, like an annual physical exam. Whatever the case, we all deserve the best healthcare there is. Healthcare that not only helps us overcome our diseases, but also enables us to get strong and healthy. And when you read the healing stories and new strategies and approaches, you become even more educated and empowered patient. And an empowered patient, as an empowered patient, you become your own best health advocate. I want you to use the power of knowledge to choose what works best for you. From both alternative and conventional medicine. And these choices will set you on the road to recovery. Because the message of this book is, I'm not against conventional medicine. I have a full family of physicians, including my mother and my husband. But sometimes it doesn't take us to the right solution, doesn't help us to heal. Sometimes we need to find solutions in an alternative world of healing. So, in combination of these two, will help us heal. And everyone is different, and everyone is unique, and so we need to become more empowered to be able to ask questions.
Yes,
Go to
that's
our
right.
physicians, ask questions, and if we don't like the answers or they don't want to answer, they have to go for the second opinion, find the doctor who will help us,
Right.
and make our decisions based on our research, and be empowered in that.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you
Irene
so
Drabkin.
much for interviewing me.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Robbin Miller. Welcome back. I have Lily Penter. She's here to talk about her book, and thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
So, tell me, what book did you write?
This is my first book. It's called The Green Bough. It's the first in a series, I hope, known as the Losing the Bubble series. It's a young adult science fiction. Losing the bubble is a term, I think it goes back to old sailing days, and when a navigator was using a sextant and got things set up incorrectly, you'd lose the bubble, like on the level.
Oh, okay.
And basically it means that you are disoriented and confused and kind of don't know what's going on.
Oh, okay.
So that's, if you've lost the bubble, you're just kind of a very confused person. So
Okay.
this is a young adult time travel, and it's a young man who, in a small New England town, small Massachusetts town, just one day I don't want to tell you too much, but he
of course not.
inadvertently travels back in time to the time of Shays' Rebellion, which was 1785.
Oh, right. That's
And
right.
yeah, it's sort of a little known event in history, but it was a
Yeah.
pretty important one also. And he travels back in time. He doesn't know why. He doesn't know how long he'll be there, if he'll ever go back to his own time. Eventually he does. After becoming enmeshed in lives in the past, he returns to the future, and of course there's a lot of confusion on his part. He's lost the bubble. He doesn't know if this is going to happen again. He doesn't know what happened to the people who were back there in that time. So he confides in some friends, and they spend some time trying to go back in history and find out more about Shays' Rebellion and what had happened. And
Wow.
I guess that's the story.
Sounds quite powerful. Well, in the time we have, probably like a minute and a half, did you want to read anything from it? Maybe the back page or something?
Hank paused for a moment, listening for the sounds of someone running. It wasn't really dark yet, just sort of duskish. It was the kind of light that made it hard to focus and made your eyes tired. The edges of everything seemed rounded and smoothed. The shadows were confusing. You couldn't tell what they were shadows of, or even if they really were shadows at all. The parking lot in front of the school were lit to prevent vandalism, but the adjacent elementary school play area and entrance to the cross-country trail were not. The evening was noisy with peepers and bullfrogs, but not with people. He could hear the hum of mercury street lamps over the sounds of the peepers. There was a small splash as a frog jumped into the little pond. He had hoped to see Jane right away, but there was no sign of her. His feet crunched on the gravel as he jogged across the playground. He stumbled over a branch that looked like a shadow, caught himself, stepped in something that squished. The smell made it clear of what he had stepped into. He didn't need to see it. I'll jump ahead because I'm running long. Maybe she'll come along and trip over my dead and broken body lying here on the trail. Serve her right, he thought angrily as he stumbled again. This time, though, the ground seemed to fall away from under his foot. He had stepped right off the trail, and his momentum took him through the closely growing mountain laurel bushes that whacked his right temple on a low tree branch. He was trying to recover his balance when he felt something grab at his arm, and he was yanked to the ground. Now he really fell and came to an abrupt stop against a tree. He lay there shivering. At least he was conscious. Of course, nothing grabbed my arm. He tried to clear his thoughts. He put his hands on the damp ground to push himself back up, but when he tried to sit, strong hands grabbed his shoulders and pushed him back down, and a hand closed over his mouth.
Oh, thank you. Sounds exciting. Well, thank you very much for coming on and talking about Losing the Bubble, Lily. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Welcome back. I am now here with Christine Beauchaine, who's here to talk about her books. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
So, you've written how many books so far?
I have written 3 so far.
And what kind of books do you write about?
The first 2 are historical fiction. The very first one is a coming-of-age story suitable for young adults. The third one is more contemporary, and it's a little bit darker, more thought-provoking.
Really? So that's the genre you like to enjoy writing about, historical fiction.
Yeah, historical fiction. The third one is more contemporary, so it's more
the modern era?
Yeah, it takes place in the modern time. It begins with an obituary, and it plays with the idea that we never fully know another person. We only know them through the lens of our own perceptions.
Oh, okay. And then you get them on Amazon, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so in the time we have, if you want to just read a little
I would
clip or
love to.
so.
Thank you. And this book was interesting to write because everything we know about the main character comes through flashbacks. And there's 7 other main characters, and they all have their own perceptions of this person. And this is written by her daughter.
Okay.
Intuition is a funny thing. Most people seem to think you either have it or you don't. Or they discredit it completely and you don't pay attention to it at all. I think some people are just more intuitive than others, but I also think that it's like a muscle. If you listen, be still, and pay attention, you can access that intuition, and the more you do it, the better it becomes and the easier it gets. I think Mom had very good intuition, but I'm not sure it's anything she ever gave herself credit for. Maybe she didn't even realize she had it. We never talked about it. Add that to the list of things I will never be able to do with my mom. The list grows longer all the time. I hate it, but I can't seem to stop adding to it. The prom, college, my wedding, my kids. I have to stop thinking like this. It's painful and unhelpful. April and I are back to sharing a room. April's unhappy about it, but I try not to take it personally. It isn't personal. It's just April being April. I secretly hope that proximity will allow us to reconnect. I don't precisely know how to approach it, but I'm thinking it over. We all need each other now that Mom is gone. Mom had the ability to hold us all together as a family. I don't know what she did, but we don't seem to be very good at whatever it was. And us all being separate people isn't going to help us heal our grief. I heard a quote once which said, in unity there is strength, and since we must be strong, we must also be one. I don't know who said it, but it totally makes sense to me.
Wow, sounds interesting.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. All right, welcome back. We now have Paula Sullivan coming on, and you wrote a book called Simply Being Happy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what is that book about?
Basically, the subtitle is 93 Ways to Replace Worry with Peace and Create a Joyful Life. And I've been researching this subject for probably my whole adult life, but I'd say seriously for probably 15, 20 years. And I've read hundreds of books. And our happiness lies in our subconscious mind, is basically. You know, people look, I'd like to say people look outside for the solutions to their problems when it's all right inside our minds.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. The soul, I think.
So this book is there's 93 chapters, and it's basically, imagine this was a cookbook, okay? And I handed it to you. It had a great healthy recipes to get your body healthy. And I handed it to you, and you read it, and you thought it was great, and you cut some recipes out, and you put it in your kitchen, and you put them on your bulletin board, and you just love them. But you never cooked anything. You never cooked those recipes. You never ingested them, that healthy food. And this book is the same thing. It's, if you were to compare it with the cookbook, you just don't read it. You gotta ingest these. You gotta do. Every day you have to do. Watch your thoughts and change your thoughts, whether it's with affirmations, meditation, visualizations, and it's very easy, but it's not common. We're not used to doing these things. It wasn't taught to our parents. It wasn't taught to us in school. But it's simple daily practices that you can do to change your level of happiness, basically.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Purpose of the show was to promote summer reading, promoting literacy in the community, because every summer when kids are out of school, there tends to be a big dip in reading, where they're focusing on other things, and when they go back to school, they tend to fall behind in their reading. So that's why I did this program, was to promote summer reading for kids, but also for adults too, because when children see their parents read, they read also. So moving along, I wanted to talk about my book. I wrote Breaking Barriers, Girl's Dream to Play Little League Baseball. It's based on my memoir of playing Little League Baseball in 1975, the year after it became legal in 1974. I write when I was going to a park one day. I saw some kids playing baseball that seemed like fun. And I remember I asked my dad to teach me how to play. And of course, we didn't take much with us to the picnic. We took out a vertical track piece that we used to have a track set, and then we took out a tennis ball. So the track piece was used as a bat, and the tennis ball was used as a hardball. So he taught my brother and I how to play. And as I progressed in getting into this game of baseball, I learned in 1974 about over the fall that girls were not allowed to play, that it was illegal. So I said, what do you mean illegal? And at that time, there was a court case going on in New Jersey of a girl who wanted to play. So they did pass the law. President Ford signed the law, and I did play Little League Baseball in 1975, where I thought it would be easy, but it doesn't. So I write in the book how I endured a lot of struggles, where you would think I would run away and hide under the bush, but no, not me. Through that book, I learned, through my experience playing baseball, I learned how to have grit, self-determination, and never giving up. And that's something that I use to this day, 40-something years later. Something that I use in teaching EJ about life skills, to never give up, move forward, and never look back. That book is available through PennantPublication.com and on Amazon, www.amazon.com. And my other two books I've written are for children with Playgroup Time for ages 0 to 2 and Three Best Friends for ages 6 to 9 years old. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have any ideas for further shows, just give me an email at rmillerchat@aol.com. Thank you and happy summer.